It started with a smile. Not the awkward, polite kind, but the kind that feels curated, perfected, sharpened into a social weapon. Meghan Markle knew exactly what she was doing when she welcomed Jaime Kern Lima onto her podcast. Was a picture-perfect alliance. Jaime, the self-made billionaire who built IT cosmetics from her living room and eventually sold her company to El Ariel for over $1 billion, was a symbol of authenticity and perseverance. And Meghan, she needed a credibility boost, a dose of real-world grit to layer over the glossy Duchess image that lately had begun to crack. Together, they were supposed to spark a moment. But what really happened? Behind the scenes, that's where the illusion begins to unravel and why this story might be the most devastating blow to Meghan's image yet. Before we go deeper, make sure you hit subscribe and turn on notifications. This story is unfolding fast, and you won't want to miss what comes next. Especially with the raw audio Jaime just teased. Trust me, things are only getting messier. Back to that polished smile. It masked more than nerves, it masked intention. According to Jaime, what was marketed as a raw, honest conversation was anything but. From the very start, Meghan's team wasn't looking for truth. They were looking for a scene. Jaime later revealed that the topics were tightly controlled, the emotional beats pre-planned. Even the camera angles. Every sigh, every water-eyed moment was scheduled, captured, and repackaged for maximum empathy. Jaime played along at first. She sat on that couch under warm studio lights, thinking she was there to connect. The act, like a coat in summer, the sudden switch shocked Jaime. The warmth was gone. In its place, a sharp, commanding energy. Not Duchess, but director. Not trauma survivor, but brand manager. That jarring transformation stuck with Jaime, gnawing at her for months. She didn't want to speak out. Not at first. She respected Meghan. She didn't want to stir drama. But then something happened that changed everything. The episode aired and the feedback poured in. Listeners flooded Jaime's inbox, thanking her for being part of such an authentic and emotional moment. And that's when she felt it. Guilt. Because she knew what the audience didn't, that nothing about that episode had been authentic. So she did what most public figures wouldn't dare. She told the truth. Not on a gossip blog. Not through a leak. She sat at the mic, steady and calm, and dropped the bombshell. The conversation was staged. The emotion was coached. She didn't exist not in that moment. Anyway, what unfolded next was chaos. The internet exploded, Reddit threads caught fire. TikTok timelines swarmed with speculation. But what truly shocked people wasn't just the accusation, it was who was making it. Because Jaime Kern Lima isn't some disgruntled ex-employee or anonymous source. She's beloved, she's respected. Her entire brand is built on being real in a sea of fakery. If she said Meghan faked it, people believed her. And worse for Meghan, Jaime wasn't backing down. Team. The mood shifted from confusion to panic. She reportedly called her PR advisors in a fury, instructing them to get the story pulled, issue denials, do anything to stop the bleeding. But Jaime wouldn't budge. Instead, she doubled down, calmly hinting at the existence of unedited audio from their infamous conversation. And that sent a shiver through the entertainment industry. This wasn't just a spat between influencers. This was a brand unraveling in real time. Meghan's image had always been carefully managed. From her Oprah interview to her Netflix documentaries, every public appearance had a clear goal: to position her as a truth-teller, a survivor, a woman wronged by the system. But suddenly, the system she claimed to fight back against, media manipulation, staged vulnerability, branding over honesty, looked eerily similar to the one she was running herself. The fallout was immediate. Quiet whispers turned into hard conversations. A fashion house reportedly paused a major campaign featuring Meghan. Netflix insiders began questioning the direction of upcoming projects. And then came the biggest silence of all. Oprah.uc. Oprah wasn't just a past collaborator. She was Meghan's most powerful public ally. The woman who gave her the platform to dismantle the royal family's narrative on global television. But now, crickets. No statement, no repost. Not even a subtle comment of support. Behind the scenes, rumors began to swirl. Oprah's team, some said, felt betrayed. That the now iconic interview may not have been as spontaneous as viewers were led to believe. That Meghan's truth might have been more of a script than a confession. And that's where this entire narrative flips. Because if Oprah, the queen of emotional authenticity, felt manipulated, then who wasn't? More importantly, what else had been curated? Viewers started rewatching old footage with new eyes. The carefully timed pause in the Archetypes podcast, the breathy tone, the slow, measured tears during the Oprah special. Troubling. For years, Meghan had occupied a unique lane, a mix of celebrity, royalty, and advocate. But now, That road was crumbling beneath her, because when the foundation of your brand is vulnerability and truth and someone exposes it as performance, that's not just a PR hit, it's a credibility collapse. And it didn't stop with Jaime once she cracked the illusion. Others began to speak out carefully, quietly but undeniably. A former Netflix editor described working on Meghan's documentary as editing a promo, not a story. Every frame was controlled, every emotional beat had to be approved by Meghan herself. But it wasn't just about vanity or optics. According to sources, she didn't want to look flawless. She wanted to look wounded, but strong. Vulnerable, but unbreakable. That fine line between heartbreak and heroism, Meghan walked it like a tightrope. And now, it looked rehearsed. Another producer who requested anonymity described the bizarre feeling of making what was supposed to be a documentary feel more like a commercial for a lifestyle brand. And moments of spontaneity were requested to be recreated. It wasn't storytelling, it was strategy. Meanwhile, the public wasn't just skeptical, they were angry. But not the kind of anger that sparks a cancel campaign. This was worse, it was disappointment. A betrayal of trust. One tweet, with over 1 million views, summed it up perfectly. I didn't support Meghan because she was perfect. I supported her because I thought she was real, and that's what was slipping through her fingers. The benefit of the doubt, people weren't just questioning one podcast episode, they were reevaluating everything. The Spotify deal that collapsed after one season, maybe it wasn't a platform. Failure, maybe it was a substance issue. The Invictus Games documentary underperforming, maybe the audience didn't feel connected anymore. And Archetypes, the podcast that was supposed to redefine how women were labeled, now felt like a case study in rebranding, not revolution. And then came the bombshell. Jaime Kern Lima released a teaser. A short 22-second clip from her next podcast episode. It showed her sitting calmly at the mic, eyes steady, voice unwavering. This isn't about tearing someone down, she said. It's about telling the truth. And I still have the tapes. That line, it detonated across the internet. TikTok exploded. Clips of Meghan's most emotional moments were now stitched with Jaimes.com voiceovers. YouTube filled with breakdowns and commentary. Reddit threads grew by the thousands, filled with speculation about what exactly those tapes might reveal. Had Meghan's team fed her lines in real time? Did she break character between takes? And suddenly, Meghan wasn't fighting off critics. She was fighting off former believers. Her inner circle began to shrink. Influencers who once sang her praises started going quiet. Brand reps who had pending deals suddenly became unavailable. And inside Beverly Hills boardrooms, a new phrase began circulating: reputation risk. Meghan Markle, once seen as a symbol of truth and resilience, was now being floated as a cautionary tale. Even Archewell, her foundation built on storytelling and impact, felt the tremors. Donors started asking questions. Were the stories shared on their platform authentic? Were the women featured in their campaigns treated as collaborators or content? Because when your brand is built on compassion and transparency, any whiff of manipulation can turn off the faucet instantly. Behind closed doors, Meghan's team worked around the clock. Legal options were explored. Friendly media outlets were contacted hoping to spin the narrative or bury the story. But nothing worked. Because Jaime wasn't budging and the public wasn't buying the excuses. What really shook people wasn't the idea that Meghan had flaws. Everyone does. It was the growing suspicion that those flaws were deliberately hidden, that every tear, every whisper, every story of struggle was passed through a filter. A brand strategy deck masquerading as a soul. At the center of the storm was a chilling irony. Meghan had spent years positioning herself as someone who fought against being silenced. But now, it looked like the silence was her greatest asset, the thing she relied on to control the story, manipulate the mood, and shield herself from accountability. And now that someone had broken that silence, her entire narrative was crumbling. Worse still, her silence now spoke volumes. No denial, no statement, no attempt at genuine transparency. Just tightly curated Instagram posts, empty press releases, and vague talk of future projects. The woman who once championed openness had gone quiet. And that quiet felt calculated, and in the background, the one voice everyone kept waiting to hear from remained silent. Oprah, her absence felt louder than any headline. No support, not even a cryptic quote. For someone who'd once declared Meghan's words shocking and powerful on national TV, the lack of follow-up now painted a different picture. How much of the royal bombshell interview was shaped behind the scenes? That trust had been shattered not by a scandal, but by a pattern of performance. Because here's the thing, Meghan's downfall, if it comes, won't be because of a single lie or a dramatic reveal. It'll be death by 1,000, edits by 1,000 curated moments that now feel suspect. by the slow, creeping realization that the woman who claimed to be the voice of truth may have just been reading from a well-rehearsed script all along, and yet, through it all, Jaime remained composed. Her voice never cracked. Her message never shifted. She wasn't bitter, she was tired. Tired of pretending. Tired of watching good people get fooled. Tired of being part of a performance she never agreed to star in. And that, more than anything, gave her story weight. She wasn't trying to destroy Meghan. She was trying to reclaim herself. And in doing so, she might have accidentally triggered one of the most dramatic brand implosions Hollywood has seen in years. And now, with Jaime promising to release full, unedited clips complete with off-camera commentary, direction notes, and post-shoot texts, the stakes have never been higher. Meghan's team is reportedly panicking. Legal threats are being drafted. Calls are being made to top execs. Some say hush money has even been quietly offered. But it might be too late to be live. So where does that leave Meghan Markle now? In a world where image is everything, authenticity is currency. And once the world believes you faked, that once they believe you wore honesty like a costume, there's no quick fix, no new documentary, no rebrand, no carefully posed portrait that can fix what's been exposed. The trust is gone, and with it, the power, because when the public starts asking, was it ever real? You've already lost. If you've made it this far, hit that subscribe button. Really does release those tapes. Buckle up, because Hollywood's mask is slipping and Meghan Markle's might be the first to fall.